It's Radio Cairo. We're coming live from Studio 3. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control. And we are with you here until 5 p.m. Well, it's a beautiful afternoon in Cairo. It's a bit hot, but this is what is expected in the end of July. And we are today having a very special, distinguished guest in our program, who, in spite of his a lot of tight schedule that he's having here in Cairo, he was kind enough to come to Radio Cairo and to our program, The World of Info Today. His Excellency Ambassador Hiroshi Oka, the Ambassador of Japan in Cairo. And it's really a great honor and to have you here, sir. Thank you very much for having the time to come with us.
Thank you very much indeed for having me here this afternoon. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to have such a distinguished ambassador who has a degree of law from Tokyo University and a master of degree from the University of London in law as well. Served his country in embassies in Saudi Arabia, Japanese embassies in Saudi Arabia, UK and New York, was the ambassador of Japan in Malaysia and Turkey, and now he's currently the ambassador in Cairo, Egypt. And of course, this is a very seasoned ambassador who had a great experience representing his country in different places. He had a lot of distinguished posts as well back home in the Foreign Service in Tokyo, and definitely he has a lot to share with us today with his experience, not just as an ambassador, but not also as a Japanese gentleman, but also an expert in Japanese-Egyptian relations. And he's coming from Japan. And in Egypt, the Egyptians, the knowledge of Egyptians, they always say the planet of Japan. Because they know that how the Japanese are very dedicated to their work, how they are very highly organized, how they are doing everything by rules, and the rules are, although flexible and allowing everybody to add to it from his own skills and innovations, but rules are made in Japan to be respected. And that's why Japan ranks high in metrics of prosperity, such as the Human Development Index, with the Japanese population enjoying the highest life expectancy of any country in the world, and the infant mortality rate being the third lowest globally. This means that it has a perfect healthcare system. So when talk about Japan, how was that possible to have what the Egyptians and the rest of the world call it the Japanese miracle, sir?
Well, thank you. And before touching upon the question, perhaps let me briefly how excited, how happy I am after returning back to Cairo after 40 years. I was here 40 years ago, 1983 to 84, studying the language. So after the absence of 40 years and coming back to Cairo, I have seen an enormous development that has taken place in Egypt. For instance, the excellent road connection that brings me to Alexandria much, much shorter, and also the phenomenal growth of the new cities, including the start of the new administrative capital, and all sorts of the conditions surrounding us, the water or the communication has been enormously changed for the better. So I very much like to congratulate all the people living here in Egypt, thanks to the efforts of the government and the local communities. But one thing has not changed at all. That is very much warm hospitality of the Egyptians and the good relations between Japan and Egypt. So I'm very happy to be back to Cairo.
You said that you spent 1 year learning Arabic in Egypt. You lived with an Egyptian family, right? More or less? Or
Oh, yes. I lived in Do'i and I was commuting to AUC campus in Tahrir.
Yes,
usually using a public bus. At that time, that was only 5 piastro. Yes. But I was told by my colleagues, these days it's £5. So that's a change we have witnessed in the 40 years. But the warmness and the friendship has not changed, so very much happy. Coming back to your perhaps question.
Yes, sir.
And the health system. Yes, our lifespan of the men is about 80 years old, and for female, 87. These are among the longest in the world. Maybe perhaps the several factors working for this the things. The one is the medical systems. and we have put in place the universal insurance systems, whereby by paying a limited amount of the premiums, we have a easy access to the medical services without waiting for any time. So that gives us a very much the better access for treatment. And also once you even enter into the kindergarten, the regular checkup, the once a year or once a semester, and the classrooms-based, workplace-basis, or after retirements, the community provides opportunity to have your medical condition checked regularly. And that gives kind of the constant review of your health conditions. If there is anything, we have the better access to the treatment before the condition become worse. And perhaps equally important is food. We are very happy to see popularity of Japanese food, sushi increasing in Cairo. We have seen so many sushis, and but we are very much taking a very limited amount of the fat, and we very much fond of eating fish and beans, particularly fermented beans. These kind of contribute to the maintain the health conditions and better and fitted. And as perhaps Dr. Amr, you know that the washoku Japanese cuisine is now regarded as a non-tangible, intangible UNESCO World Heritage. So this is the recognition of how good this washoku Japanese cuisine is for maintaining the food and health.
So nobody can compete with this beautiful food, and everybody always tells about the experience of eating Japanese food, whether he's eating this Japanese food in Cairo or the States or in any other country in the world. It has its distinguished taste, but nothing matches the sushi that we eat in Tokyo, which I had the experience of eating actually.
But I have to emphasize that we are very happy to be in Egypt, because you have an abundant supply of the very fresh fish. My chef, the Japanese, they regularly go to either to Alexandria, to Red Sea area to find a very fresh catch to be served for the guests at my residence. So they are very much happy about the good quality of the local fish. And apart from the health issue coming back, the health systems and then the Japanese cuisine, but this thing has not taken place easily. At the start of the 20th century, the infant mortality rate was, for instance, 1 in 10 children,
which is very high,
very high. But now 1 in 1,000. This is the lowest in the world. Lots of things has contributed. For instance, the increase of doctors, or the improvement of the public health conditions, the safety of water, treatment of the wastewater, or the practice of the washing hands in the schools, or vaccinations, and the betterment of the nutrition. But we introduced the practice of the distributing mother and children the handbook. Whenever you are kind of diagnosed to be pregnant, and the doctor provides you with the handbook. So on the regular basis, the doctor record the prognosis or developments, and even after the born of the baby, then they can record the weight and the size of the children's, and also record the regular vaccination records. By constantly following these developments, they can easily detect everything is okay for the children's the growth, or if there is anything wrong. So this is also contribute to the reduced infant mortality rate.
But the demographics are not very kind to Japan nowadays, and they say that the population is always diminishing. The number of people getting older are much more than the people who are younger. So how Japan intends to solve this problem? I know, of course, there is either thoughts from outside the box, like importing people to live in Japan or easing the immigration plans. But don't you think that encouraging the young couples to have children, especially with the amount of help that the government and the social societies are giving for support for couples who are newlywed to have children, why is that the baby boomers are refusing to have children these years? I mean, this is I'm sorry to say, but this is has been noticed.
The reduced birth rate is I would say is not only taking place in Japan, but this is taking place in other countries in Asia like Korea and China
and Russia,
and
even
Russia. So
Russia.
this is a kind of the global phenomena.
Yes.
With the participation of the women in the workforce. So, but we have to, address this matter in a very much the integrated way, because we put emphasis on the Japanese tend to be workaholic in the past. You're not happy to be stay in office 24 hours.
Exactly.
The office is late, lightly, even at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. But this comes with the reduced the time for the family to be relaxed and the So now we put emphasis on striking a balance between. Of course, you have to work hard, but at the same time you need to spend more time to have a relaxed and the fruitful life with the private purposes. So it's a kind of the work and the there's a balance. This is an emphasis we are putting in place. We have yet to the change the tide. It's very much challenging, define the gravity of the but we very much hope that this will work in the end. Of course, the longevity should not be a burden. Longevity is way to enjoy life. So that perhaps we can employ lots of the digital technologies, and living in the remote area should not be regarded as a handicap, but making use of the lots of the telemedicine or the telework or the communication system, by making use of these kind of the latest technologies. I hope that they can make up for the reduced number of the
so you think hopefully the bad expectation of by 2060 the number of Japanese will be 86 million, which is down from 100 almost million now. Hopefully this can be reversed by 2060.
Well, inshallah.
Yes. That's good. That's good. It's always nice to be optimistic, because I tell you my own experience in Japan when I met the honorable head of the plastic surgery department in Tokyo University and asked him a very particular question. For example, what was the complication rate in this surgical procedure in particular? And he said to me right away, it's 12.5%. And I said to him, well, this percent in the world is almost 50% in any other country, whether this is a developing nation or a developed nation, because there are other personal factors included, which is the doctor, the patient, the nurse, the hospital, and a lot of personal factors, while almost all these personal factors are not included in the statistics in Tokyo or in Japan, because the people are abiding by the rules. So that's why the personal factor or the human error is reduced, making it 12.5%, while it is 40 to 50% anywhere in the world because of the human error. So taking this benefit, you think that this will help in reversing or increasing the birth rate, right, by people understanding that this modes of the government helping and the social societies helping, things are getting better, and hopefully we'll find the population on the rise again, as you said, inshallah.
Well, of course, having more young generations contribute to stimulate society, energize society, as we are witnessing here in Cairo.
Yes.
The loss of the young generation, they are the assets of the future society, and they are very much talented.
Exactly.
So, but this is a kind of destiny. I'm sure that all the societies, once the more and more women come into the workforce to try to pursue their own careers. So. Well, whether or not we can defy this, gravity of the birth rate issues, what is important is to ensure that we are, each and every people can live a better life.
Definitely.
To fulfill their destinies, and whatever ways that we can find the aid, either from the digital robot or any ways, we will explore whatever means to help us life fruitful and meaningful. This is the kind of the destiny of
as you carefully said, inshallah. So just with this introduction to the Japan and the Japanese society, we'd like to go to the most important thing, which is definitely your job here, Your Excellency, in Egypt, which is definitely to improve the Egyptian-Japanese or Japanese-Egyptian relations. And this improvement is not just on the in the economic side or the political side, but also in people-to-people diplomacy and touching the lives of Egyptians and telling them that Japan and Egypt have a strong friendly relations. So as we know that the first mission to Egypt was a samurai visit in 1863 with a famous photo that I think you have a copy of it, almost original copy,
yes,
in your residence, yes, in front of the pyramids, where they examined the new technology of railroads. And I had the experience to jump on one of these trains in between Tokyo and Kyoto, and it took us just 1 hour and a half or 2 hours to reach there, which is a huge distance and very rapid. So it's hard to believe that the Japanese came here to learn how the railroads are progressing, the technology of railroads in 1863, and they took it from Egypt. And its impact on the economy of developing nations. This remains as a major milestone. Until now, this fraternal relation, could you tell us more about this visit and about the start of the communication and the connection between the Egyptians and the Japanese?
Yes, as Dr. Amr, you have said that this is a very much important historical milestone when it comes to the relations between Japan and East. At least this is a kind of the physical evidence of our seeing the encounter of the Japanese with what Egypt stands for. The historical context was that at that time we were at the very end of the feudal ruling system, Edo. But at the time we are approached by many powers at the time to open up the ports.
In the 1856 or 1857, yes, when the first Americans visited.
Yes, Commodore Perry's.
Commander Perry's. With 3 ships only. Black ships.
Yeah, has completely changed the societies. So the shogunate government has decided to send the missions, samurai missions. They are wearing samurai attires,
yes,
and they put on swords because they belong to the government of Tokugawa. Sent to Europe. The mission was sent 3 times: 1862, and 1864, and 1867. All the missions had to get off at the Suez because the Suez Canal had not been decommissioned. So they made a land journey from Suez to Cairo. They continued their journey to Alexandria to get on board to continue.
And by chance, they took the train from Suez to Cairo and the train from Cairo to Alexandria, because this was the first line to be made.
Yes.
Cairo, Suez, and Cairo, Alexandria.
Yes. They were very much astounded. I'm sure this is the first time for them to see by themselves the steel locomotive running on the
steel
tracks.
horse. The
because
steel horses.
Japan, at the time the horse was pulling the car. Of course, a couple of months, but and after a couple of months spending on the sea, they have landed on an entirely different world. They have seen the locomotive pulling. This is Cairo was the second city in the world after London.
Exactly.
So they are
even George Stephenson himself was the one who inaugurated this system.
Yes, so state-of-art technologies. And then we followed a very interesting kind of the record of one of the participants. Then of course they started enjoying the train ride of the locomotive. Then they said that as far as they can see, it's a very much fertile, the rich expanse of cotton. So this is again we see a kind of the process of modernization under the Muhammad Ali. Or at that time Ismail Pasha.
This was the start of Ismail. 1860 was Said. 1863 that was Ismail Pasha, and it was the peak of the civil war. So Egypt was producing a lot of cotton to supply the needs for the Yorkshire factories, and therefore Egypt was having a great gross anatomy and money at that period.
And as soon as they get off from the train, they were surrounded by people. Of course, from the Egyptian, they are very much curious who they are, wearing very much strange attires.
Yes.
And the 27 people delegation was divided into 10 groups, and so they continue their journey by pulling by the horses who are on the donkeys.
Yes.
Continue their journey to pyramids and the Sphinx. It's
And they
very,
have this beautiful picture.
yeah, it's
just
very,
beautiful.
very interesting. The comments made by one of the delegates is, this is unimaginable, amazing, tremendous. He can't believe this is what the human can construct it.
Exactly.
But at the same time, this is an evidence what the things the human can make.
Exactly, and this is a very thoughtful observation, because looking at it from a different perspective, a perspective that he is the one who heard or saw pictures of it, suddenly, I mean, anyone who goes to the pyramids, even me as an Egyptian who goes to pyramids every 5 or 6 years, when you see the pyramid, you're going always to be mesmerized from the fact that it is so huge.
And then if you carefully look at the faces of those who appear in the photos, they are not necessarily, they are mesmerized. Of course, some of them were mesmerized and impressed by the pyramids and the Sphinx, but some of the faces are rather gloomy or contemplating their missions, because the record says their mission is very much important, but challenging, because they cannot fail these missions, because this is a governmental mission. They cannot fail the negotiation. But at the same time, they should not be successful. Successful negotiation means that Japan continue to close ports to outside world. And they now realize that they are wondering if to continue to close door to the communications with outside world, the trade is a good thing for Japan. So in that sense, this is a kind of the snapshot of all the things. Of course, the first face-to-face encounter with the Japanese and Egyptians, and the Japanese impressed by the fruits of the modernization that Egypt had started 50 years earlier than Japan has embarked on. But at the same time, the challenge and difficulties at the time Japan was facing with a rapidly changing the world, the modernization, how country can modernize, at the same time maintain the traditional values. And so this is exactly the same as the Egypt and the Japan as sharing. So we very much like to see the reason of the kind of the friendship Japan and Egypt. Of course, we have done lots of the things at the cooperative manner. So this is carefully built on the friendship, but at the same time, the context within which we work, how to modernize the country, but at the same time preserving very much rich values and traditions.
Exactly,
which is the same thing.
Which is a very big problem. I mean, imagine that they had to, or almost force. It was not a real force, but it was a show of force that Commander Perry and his 3 ships came and said. They came after many years from the arrival of the Portuguese and the arrival of some missionaries for working in Japan. But the 3 ships with Commander Perry on top of them really was sort of awakening clock or awakening alarm, if we may use the expression. Either you submit or you rise to the occasion and rise to the status and show the people how great you are, which is what Japan did. This remains a very interesting thought, because within 50 years, as you have just kindly mentioned, how Japan was able to start having the locomotives and the railroads, and within less than 40 years, Japan was victorious in a war against the Imperial Russia. And this has shown us that Japan has risen for the occasion, not in the first idea of defense or offense, but just to absorb the technology and produce compatible technology with the world without importing everything. This is a question that I always ask myself. How were you able to absorb the technology and then go into an industrial revolution very fast in a very short period of time? How was that possible?
Well, I think the Egypt and Japan and all the the countries now, we are embark on this the challenge of the modernization, but at the same time maintain the values and traditions. So sooner or later, any countries can move forward. And one of the participants of the samurai mission was Fukuzawa Yukichi. He was a thinker and the advocate of the importance of education. He was very famous by being remembered as a very famous saying that all the human are created equal. There is no human which is above and there is no human below by birth. but at the same time, he emphasized on the importance of educations throughout the lifespan. It is by education he can empower himself and he can develop himself. So this is a kind of the themes which are widely accepted. And also he introduced the transition from the feudal systems to modern systems by in terms of their ideas, the freedom or the equality and independence. So if there is any reason and factor that contributed to the leap from the feudal systems to modern system, then one of the reasons is this kind of the awareness which is propagated by one thinker and accepted by the society, and also the emphasis placed on education. And there was a kind of the ground of the even before the modernization started, it used to be the tradition for the parents to send their children to the private schools attached to the mostly temples, where the boys and girls learn how to write, how to read, how to calculate. So that made the kind of the leap once we started modernization pathway easier.
Let's jump a bit forward in 100 years from 1862 or 1863 to 1964, or the start of extensive cooperation between Egypt and Japan in different aspects. Whether this we have seen, for example, in the cooperation with the private sector, like Al Arabi, who started a small business on building a fans factory, and now yesterday he has signed, or the establishment. I know Al-Hajj Al-Arabi has died a few years back, but the establishment has signed a treaty with the Japanese government with a lot of, without mentioning the names of the famous companies, they have signed a lot of treaties to build 500,000 refrigerators, building a lot of TV sets and a lot of things. So this cooperation between Egypt and Japan, whether in the private sector or in other sectors, governmental sectors in the field of industry, remains as a very important pillar in our relation. Tell us about the prospect of this cooperation, the past, the present, and the future in the field of industry, because we have a lot of things to talk about: the health, the culture, the transport. So let's start with industry as a start.
Dr. Amr, you mentioned about the 1964. This happens to be the start of a development partnership. This year marks the 70th anniversary since we started the development partnership. 1964.
So 64, that's 60 years.
This is
60.
Oh, sorry. 1954 was the start of the Development Cooperation. This year marks the 70th anniversary, where we share our experience, of our expertise, of our experience, the modernization experience for the Egyptian people to for their use. And so perhaps we can talk about the lots of the education or the development partnerships. But also the business cooperation is very important, because I believe the Egypt has a huge advantage for businesses in terms of the strategic location. It's sit in the middle of the Asia, Europe, and Africa. Strategic pathway, Suez Canal to Europe or the Red Sea, going to the Asia and Japan, and also hugely talented young people. One of the company managers says, who was supervising the actual production process in the factory, I asked what is the quality level of the people on the workforce. He said he's very much satisfied. They are very much excellent. So that shows that how Japanese businesses are happy about the quality of the people working in the factories. And also we are moving away from the hydrocarbon to green and clean world. So renewable technology is very much important. There again, Egypt enjoys a huge natural advantage. The loss of the favorable wind blows continuously. So lots of the Japanese business are making wind farms on the Ras Al Gharib, now a little bit inland. So locations and the climate and the quality of the people and the workforce, that makes the Egypt the ideal destination for the business partnership.
So you can say a recipe for success, right?
Yes.
Very nice. So when we talk about industry, we cannot forget also the type of cooperation in the people's cooperation, or the human beings to human beings. You have done a lot. I mean, we have here the cultural center, or the opera, which was built in the early 80s, and the kabuki was the beginning of this, and it was attended by the president himself at that time, President Mubarak. So when we talk about this cultural cooperation and how this opera stays in the hearts of Egyptians and acts as a very important minaret of propagation of culture, whether this Oriental or Western. But the activities that we see in Cairo Opera House can definitely be attributed to the first milestone, building an opera house in Cairo. What brought the idea to Japan in this prospect, thinking that this culture bridge will definitely be like a bridgehead?
Well, thank you very much indeed for the opera house. When I was here 40 years ago, that was the 1984 or 83, opera house was not here.
Yes.
But now second time here, there was of the footprint of the visible cooperation that starts with the construction opera house that was inaugurated 1988 with the performance of the traditional kabuki.
Yes, exactly.
Before coming to the studio, we watched the windows and saw the zamalek, the shape of the opera house. We are very much happy that the opera house is a cultural hub, the mecca for the culture activities or international cultural exchanges. We have seen lots of the cultural performances played in the opera house, the ballet, Giselle, the Carmen, the opera, the lots of concerts. So we're very much happy that the very much excellent Cairo Symphony Orchestra and Opera Symphony Orchestra in a good play. And there are about 10 Japanese ballet dancers and appearing in each ballet performance. We cannot miss that.
And even performers in the Cairo Symphony as well. I think
there are
Japanese
tuba players and also the trumpeters and the male and the female. And I have made lots of the good friends in the orchestra and members like Dr. Wakil, who sings, and also the violin player Dr. Yasel, and also flutist Safa, Dr. Safa.
Yes,
she has to be a graduate of the Japanese language at the Cairo University, but she turned the course, and now she is an excellent member of the orchestra. Not only this is a kind of the Western performance, but this is also a platform for the international culture exchange. One day I attended to enjoy performance of Kazakhstan. They are talking about the kind of history, focusing on the certain heroes in the past, and also we have enjoyed the performance of the from Brazil and Italy, and of course the Egyptian and the Arab. They
play very beautiful repertoire.
Yes.
I mean, every Saturday there's Cairo Symphony Orchestra is playing with only a very short vacation of 1 month per year. And also you can listen to the opera itself, and the Cairo Opera House or the Cairo Opera Company is different than the Cairo Symphony Orchestra. And this Cairo Opera Orchestra has its own orchestra itself, and the singers and the chorus and the choir. All this is having a home for them. That is in the Cairo Opera House in Zamalek, which is in the middle of
So we are
Cairo.
told that, for instance, thank you for making this place available for these excellent artists to demonstrate their skill and their voices. And of course, this is also provides a venue for the Japanese to perform their pianos or the other musical instruments. It's very much interesting that this current opera house replaced the old original opera house, which was unfortunately burned down.
Exactly.
But that opera house was built amid of the process of modernizations during the period of
1870s. Yes.
70.
Yes, by Haussmann. Haussmann, the one who has renovated Paris,
I see.
Was brought here by Khedive Ismail
So-
to plan the
Yes.
Khedive Cairo, or the new Cairo.
So this is a kind of the steps, similar steps had taken place in Japan when Japan had started the process of modernizations, try to close to the the Western the culture at the time.
Exactly.
But at the same time, of course, we maintain our traditional arts and the place. So it's a very much important for us to carry the kind of history of what the East had started with by building the original opera house. This is meant to be a place where all the cultural activities from the Europe, from the other countries to get
Exactly.
together, to be carried on. So we are very much happy to provide or support the platform where international culture exchanges are taking place, and this is where the people get together. And above all, we are very much grateful that the HPM people remember that this is a kind of the legacy of the partnership between Japan and Egypt.
Another partnership in the level of people to people were 3 projects which I believe are really touching the human lives of Egyptians on a minor scale and on a mega scale. So, for example, the Salam Bridge that brings East and West between the eastern bank of the Suez Canal and the western bank. This high bridge has really looked very beautiful to connect between Asia and Africa. So it's touching the human beings who make this journey frequently, joining parts of Egypt. And also, we cannot forget the pediatric hospital of Cairo University, which has celebrated its anniversary recently. And I know how much the Japanese government and JICA are very much interested in renewing the hospital and even in expanding its branches and wings, which makes it, as we always say, they call it Abu Rish Al Yabani.
Yabani. Japanese hospital.
Japanese Abu Rish Hospital, which is also touching the hearts of Egyptians. And of course, we cannot forget another thing, which is the metro. The line that Japan has built. So these are 3 projects that are touching the human beings on the personal and on the family level. And tell me how Japan was interested in taking this step of communication that really helped the Egyptians to understand how much Japan is caring to build people-to-people relation. Of course, before we go to the museum, because the museum has a lot of things to talk about. But
Thank you, Dr. Amr. But
let's talk first about that.
Please allow me to touch before going to the Great Egyptian Museum. Of course, this is
yes. We want to talk about the bridge, the hospital, and the subway.
Yeah, but we have a bridge, we have pediatric hospital, Japanese hospital, we have Metro Line 4, which is under construction.
These 3 things really are people to people.
Yeah, but at the same time, we have founded university.
Yes.
The Japan University of Science
and it's
Technology,
working now almost more than 10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
And now we have 51 Egyptian Japanese schools where the kindergarten, KG to, the now 6th grade and beyond. And we are also working for the expansion of the Borger Arab Airport. So there are lots of the legacy of the development partnership between Japan and Egypt. If there is any way our cooperation has touched the chord of the Egyptians and provide practical benefits, we are very much happy to do so. There are 2 kind of the thinking behind we pursue this cooperation. Of course, cooperation is at the invitation, the request from the Egyptian side. So this is a joint effort between Japanese and Egyptian side. One is we put emphasis on the individual human empowerment or capacity building, as I have been trying to say, that if I say success of the Japanese experience of modernization depends ultimately on the empowerment of the individuals by education. So if this is our experience, we very much like to share our experience of the modernization with Egyptians so that they can integrate, they can make use of our experience for their own modernization, the work. So we try to put emphasis on the individual, the human beings, the empowerment, the capacity building. And the other, the basic point is that infrastructure building is very much important for the economic developments. Either it's a port, either it's railways, either it's electricity, either it's now it's world is very much globalized, connected. So to provide connectivity for the transportation is very much crucial for any economies to move forward. So we are trying to put in place whatever form of the development partnership, either focusing on the emphasis or the importance of the capacity development individual or the infrastructure building. For instance, the EJUST, which is now regarded as the best university in Egypt according to Times, the Global Times University ranking, is now built 10 years. And we are not only inviting the Egyptian students, the majority of the Egyptian students, but at the same time we are inviting jointly Egypt and Japan, inviting the scholarship students from the Africa. So from Cote d'Ivoire, from Malawi, from Sudan, from Guinea, they are coming invited to study EJUST so that they can bring back to their own countries the kind of what they have learned and achieve the EJUST. So we are putting the seeds of the academic and technology development jointly by Egypt and the Japanese. And EJS is where we try to put in place a Japanese way of education. But of course, the education curriculum is Egyptian curriculums, but the non-cognitive education, the education which are not tested, like mathematics or languages, but how about the group making, harmony, the behaviors, or leader making, that kind of things can be learned by the special classroom activities, which is called the Japanese type of educations. Now, these not only students but the parents are very much happy to send the boys and girls to the Egyptian Japanese schools. There are 13,000. The students are going to EJS, Egyptian Japanese schools. And then ultimately, objective of the Egyptian government is to introduce this type of the Egyptian Japanese classroom activities to all the public schools.
These schools are distributed all over Egypt, or they are located in special cities?
Distributed all over the Egypt.
Different
51,
governorate.
Different governorate.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we talk about the Egyptian-Japanese cooperation in the field of education and in the field of health, that is touching the everyday life of human beings and acting, especially investing, for example, in the pediatric hospital of Cairo University, because the Cairo University is the mother university in medical school. Qasr Al-Aini has been inaugurated in 1827 by Muhammad Ali, and it has stood the test of time as a sort of a source of first-class physicians and the promoters of the health, because this remained as the single medical school. My father, for example, graduated from Cairo University Medical School in 1949. Before that, there were no other medical schools except Cairo University, but we can find other universities started in 46 and 47, like Ain Shams and Alexandria and Asyut. So investing in the mother of all schools definitely has helped to increase the promotion of the cooperation on the field. Also, before we go to the Japanese investment in the great museum, we have to talk also about the fourth line of the subway in Cairo, because Cairo definitely needs more subway lines. So your investment in the fourth subway track definitely is of importance. Tell us how the idea came to the JICA or to the Japanese government. Why did you like to invest in this particular project?
Well, the JICA makes regular city transportations master plan making in cooperation with Egyptian government, Ministry of Transport or Ministry of Housing. And the latest, the master plan come up with a need to expand the metro line systems, because we see a multiply of the new cities in outskirts. So we have started, in addition to 1, 2, 3, the service metro line 4. This is a kind of the connecting the western part of the Cairo new cities with the center of the city and to the beyond to the eastern part. So providing a kind of the connection throughout the city from the west to
The
east.
different suburbs of Cairo from the east and the west
Yes.
are connected. This is a dream that comes true.
And
This
the
was-
Giza is a very much crowded place. So the metro line will provide good commuting lines, but at the same time this pass through the Grand Egyptian Museum. So this will serve very well for the bringing the tourists from all over the world to the Great Egyptian Museum. And of course, this is designed to be extended to the east to New Cairo. Again, they give the direct connection New Cairo with the center of the city and beyond to the new administrative capital. So this is a kind of the symbolic pathway from the west and they go into the east. So this is a
superb idea. Well, you are still listening to Radio Cairo, the world of info, and we're coming live from Studio 3 with His Excellency Ambassador Hiroshi Oka, Ambassador of Japan in Cairo, who are really enjoying very much the food for thought that he is giving today to us about Egyptian-Japanese relations. Stay tuned with us. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dr. Muhammad is still at the control. And on the next part of our program, we're going to talk about the great Egyptian or the Grand Egyptian Museum, and this will be very much of interest. Stay tuned to us. So we're still listening to Radio Cairo, World of Info, and we're coming live from Studio 3 with this beautiful afternoon in Cairo and talking with His Excellency Ambassador Hiroshi Oka, Ambassador of Japan to Cairo. And before we leave, we have to talk about the Grand Egyptian Museum, a museum that really fulfills the dreams of not only the Egyptians, but the people of the world, to know that there is a huge museum that is going to house most of the important artifacts of Egypt, and that it is located right next to the most valuable necropolis, if we may use the expression, that is the pyramids area, with the huge number of pyramids that are approximately approaching less than 100, but more than 70 or 80 pyramids are in this beautiful western part of the Nile, and the funerary temples and all that. And then you can find in the middle of this route, beautiful route that takes you from the south until the north, even near Banha, you're going to find the Grand Egyptian Museum. And we were just having, before we went on air, not just that it's going to be a store, or not just going to be, it's a sort of a museum with all the museology of holding and showing the structures, but the technology that's going to be used in this museum and the identification and the security remains very much Japanese high-tech. Tell us about the Grand Egyptian Museum, sir.
The abbreviation of the Grand Egyptian Museum is GEM. So this is literally a gem of collaborations between Japan and Egypt. We have been worked for over many years for the things, but this is literally the gem of the cooperation between the two countries. As you have kindly mentioned, this is a representative of all the most precious artifacts that are going to be put in place. So it is very much honor for us, pleasure for us to be a part of this huge project. And I'm sure that when samurai they stood against the pyramids and the Sphinx 160 years ago on a similar place,
yes,
if they had seen
it's very quite
Grand
near.
Egyptian Museum being built with the partnership with the Japan, they could not believe it.
Of course.
Well, this is a very much, of course, the building itself is huge, in good the designing fit with the pyramid complex, but at the same time there is an element of the human cooperations, the restorations, the renovations, the very much precious artifacts of Tutankhamun. The age of the pyramids or the Egyptian pyramids as a stone, but actually the artifacts which are used by the pharaohs were made of woods, the chairs and the beds and the carriages. So there is good reason for Japanese, of course, civilization is much, much younger, but at the same time, the oldest, the wooden building or construct is in Japan. So Japanese experts on the wood or textiles, it's amazing that the underwear worn by King Tutankhamun Pharaoh is preserved.
Exactly.
And they are, able to be shown to us. It's amazing. So it's very much honor for us to be a part to work for the preservation and restoration of this very much valuable, priceless artifacts to be presented to for the world to see. So we are very much happy to see or waiting for the inauguration of the museum. But I would also the second solar boat. This is Khufu's second solar boat. Is also displayed. This was the pieces are preserved, renovated, and once it is open, it is going to be put in place just next to the main building. So all the visitors can see these pieces of the oldest, the wooden, the
funerary boat is magnificent and symbolizing the eternal trip of the pharaoh, of the great pharaoh, to the afterlife and coming back. This is really very, very interesting, and it's discovery.
Yes, Prime Minister was very much impressed, almost speechless after he spent so many time by watching all the things which are displayed in King Tutankhamun Gallery. So we are looking forward to the opening.
So definitely the role and the scientific innovations and the involvement in building reconstructive workshops and teaching the very clever archaeologists of Egypt, because they say that the biggest aggregation of Egyptologists are Egyptians, and they have been working, and the faculties of antiquities and archaeology in Egypt have been producing great graduates who share their knowledge very happily with, and always are absorbing like a sponge more information from any expert who's coming, and always willing to exchange information. This makes us a very special place. Well, sir, we've gone through a lot of fields of cooperation, and I think that the friendship that between both of our countries and your predecessors, and go back very further away in tens and tens of years, and every time a distinguished diplomat comes to hold the place as an ambassador of Japan to Cairo, and I think every time he leaves with a lot of memories and a lot of emotional attachment to this country. I believe that living in Egypt now for maybe 2 years or 3 years now, how do you feel about your Egyptian experience?
Well, I'm enjoying, of course, the life here. Second time in Cairo is in the return to my home country.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to see as many Egyptian people as possible.
And definitely, you're interested in building more cooperation in other fields, right, sir?
Yes. As Samurai Mission has discovered, ever since we have worked, my predecessors with the Egyptian partners, the excellent relations we are witnessing now is a legacy of the layers of our predecessors' work. And then we are enjoying the mutual trust and respect, admiration.
Exactly.
The Japanese have a very much strong interest in the admirations for the Egyptian, and this will continue would be the case. So what we are going to do the remaining time while we are here is now, thankfully, we are now the strategic partnership, which was agreed by the President and the Prime Minister last year, how to make use of the strategic partnership for the benefit of the regions on the world, for the stability and peace in the region, and also how to enlarge the scope of bilateral relations. We may strengthen our business partnership, we may strengthen further the science and technology academic cooperation for the better benefits of the future generation to come, so that when our predecessors come and talk to you, he will continue to enjoy and talk about the excellent relations between Japan and Egypt, even after 40 years or even after 160 years to come. And hopefully they will not talk about a different planet, but they are sharing the same planet for the better future for both countries. But we are in love with Egypt, we're fond of Egypt, so this will maintain the case for every Japanese.
Maybe there will be another start of cooperation, not just field of ancient Egyptian artifacts, but also the beautiful monuments of Cairo. Maybe you will help us more in restoring and helping more in the Islamic Cairo and Arab Cairo and the Christian Cairo. Definitely the type of agenda-free, as we may use the expression, of the relation between Egypt and Japan. It's only built on trust, confidence, and pure friendship, with no aims but to make the world a much better place where Egypt and Japan live in a fraternal relation. Excellency, it's a great pleasure and honor. And if you may kindly promise us to come again to talk more about Japan and Egypt and about Japanese-Egyptian relations, because there is a lot of things that we have missed today, and we'd love to have more episodes to talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitations.
It's a great pleasure to have had with us today His Excellency Ambassador Hiroshi Oka, Ambassador of Japan to Cairo. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad was at the control. Stay tuned to Radio Cairo, and hopefully we'll see you the same time, same station, Radio Cairo, next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Radio Cairo, FM 95.4. The Voice of Egypt.